now, guys, and as soon as we start streaming, I'll come on to that question, and I will. We are on. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, everybody. Listen, guys, before we start, we are streaming on YouTube, we're streaming on X, and we are streaming on TikTok. Just so you guys understand the format, you guys on TikTok, I'll be closing you down pretty soon, and I will just continue this live stream on YouTube and X. I'm making no apologies for that. It's just the TikTok algorithm is it's an absolute nightmare. I can't even turn the chat on. There's no option for me to turn the chat on so everybody can talk. So last night, ladies and gentlemen, what I'm going to talk to you guys now, what I have learned in the last 24 hours of, living in the asylum. So first of all, last night, there was a mass protest planned in Birmingham. Schools were closed, streets were closed down, shops were closing early. You had these big Muslim influencers, saying that the streets are not safe, saying that, they're going to saturate the ground with protesters. Hundreds of thousands of people due to turn up. Turns out there was about 300 people turned up from the protesters' side. So what did I learn from this? First of all, I learned that these people who are claiming to be able to gather such large crowds, they can't do that. What I also saw is some very, very enraged people, guys. There was a lot of rage in that crowd. I'm going to talk to you last night from my perspective. And then last night, guys, honestly, I've got some concerning things I want to talk about, and it's from people that I didn't expect this coming from, guys. Okay, it really was concerning. I don't know if you guys saw this or not. It was something I was watching. I was watching lots of videos on this last night, lots of live streams, the little bits, and I was trying to listen to what people are talking about, because on these live streams you catch people having other conversations in the background, and that's what concerned me. Okay, so let's just start from the beginning. The scenes from Birmingham were absolutely wild last night, guys, okay? From the Villa Park side of it, when the fans were going in, I thought this was an absolute inevitability. Where the cameras were, there were people looking out. And 100%, it did look like these people were surrounded. It did look like there were thousands of people there, which way they were as Villa fans. As soon as those fans went inside, pretty much that was it, guys. There was a little bit of shouting outside. This guy called Young Bob got arrested. And look, guys, I don't know this is the first time I've heard about this guy called Young Bob. No idea who he is. The police were making massive mistakes. So I'll come on to Young Bob in a minute. But one of the things that I think was key, the government has, I guess the local council, by de facto, the government has appeased these gangs. There's appeased the mob rule, and they didn't allow the Tel Aviv fans to turn up. I think that was absolutely the wrong decision, guys. 100%, I think that was the wrong decision. Once the Tel Aviv fans didn't turn up, the crowds, and we saw this together, guys. If you was on the live stream last night, and with me, you'll know what I'm talking about. The crowds outside Villa Park. Once the protesters, outside Villa Park, again, guys, I'm not a football guy. So the crowds outside, once the protesters outside, once the fans had gone in, they then moved to try and antagonize those fans. That's what really happened. So turns out that after the Tel Aviv fans had been stopped, the protesters then wanted the Aston Villa fans not to turn up. So it then went quiet. Now, there was a debate going on by this guy, Young Bob, and I think maybe an imam. I don't know. He was certainly one of the elders. And this guy, Young Bob, and this guy, they're having a conversation. And the police came and stopped that conversation. I wanted to hear that conversation. I wanted to hear, because neither of them were being aggressive. And that's what I want to see, guys. That is really what I want to see. I want, I genuinely, I want to learn. I want to know, right, what is it you guys want? Because, how we have that perspective, that you guys have seen the meme. There's two people, they're looking at a shape, and this guy's going, it's a square. And this guy's going, no, it's a circle. But, if you come together and look, you're actually, actually, it's a cylinder. We're both right. Yeah, we're actually both right. That's where I think we are. So look, I did want to see that conversation, but what happened is, I don't want to go down conspiracy lane here, guys. All right, I don't want to go down conspiracy lane because I don't think this was a conspiracy. But I'm pretty sure some people later on in the day will say it was a conspiracy to stop these conversations happening. But I wanted to see that conversation between young Bob and this imam. It was a polite conversation. Both, they were both being courteous. They were both being intellectual, and that's what I want to see. And then the police came and dragged this guy, young Bob, away and then arrested him. And I was like, why are they they arrested him? I think, again, look, guys, I think it was something like a Section 35 cause. I don't know. Somebody put in the comments what it is. I genuinely don't know. Also, what I found over the last 24 hours, exactly what I've been saying, guys, is 100% right. We need that legal framework to oppose a tyrannical government. Okay, so when this guy, young Bob, was being arrested, they were talking about the legal. It was a lot of jargon. There was a lot of jargon. I was like, right, what is going on here? And they were saying, how have I broken this? And how is this legislation? That's where we need that legal framework to protect ourselves. Because if we form militias to protect ourselves, the police will come to close them down. If we form militias and it's in law, and that law is very clear, it's been very well interpreted, that we have the legal right to form militias to protect ourselves for personal security, then in that context, that's why we need that, guys. Okay, so that is so important. We need to start that as a national conversation. What legal framework do we have? What legal framework do I have? What legal framework do you have to protect yourself from a tyrannical government? And I'm not talking about, I'm not talking about a protest here, a protest there. I'm not talking about Chloe, Karen, and Jess having some DP in their bag. I'm talking about big boy stuff, guys, okay? I'm talking about changing the fabric of society, because what's happening in the United Kingdom right now is not normal, guys. I promise you, it's not normal. Guys, as soon as I've done my opening monologue, I'm going to turn you guys off on TikTok, and I will just be streaming on YouTube and X. I then saw this guy, again, going back to young Bob. He was trying, again, I don't know how edited this video was, so I'm trying to be as impartial as I can be here, guys, okay? So I saw a video of this guy with long hair, like long curly hair. He's a proper brum. He's like, get away from me, Yems, and I'm going to push you away. And this guy, young Bob, is saying, why would you push me away? I'm just wanting to talk. Again, look, guys, I'll be clear. I don't know what's happened before that. I don't. I'm just saying what I saw. And this guy's going, get away from me, Yems. No, so he's like, get away, and I'm going to push you away, Yems. So I'm like, hang on a minute. And then he pushes this guy, young Bob, and then the police came and they saw it out. But I watched another video and another perspective of that. And one of the Muslim guys who organized this, he was very sincere. He dragged that kid away and he said, look, we're not having any of that. I don't want any violence on this protest. So I was like, right, okay, so this is being well controlled, by that side. And, I'm saying what I see, guys, okay? I'm saying what I see. The night progressed, and this is what was a little bit was a little bit concerning to me. It was quite a lot concerning, actually. I was watching one of the auditors. I can't remember what it is. They all have audits at the side of their name now, don't they? There's I can't remember which one it is, guys, but it seems like everybody now, they have something and audits. I don't know. Shall I be Raven audits? So I was watching one of these live streams as it was closing down, and they were just walking, and you could hear people talking. And the conversations that I heard them having, and these were live streamed and they're shared online, it was disturbing. It was not what I thought these people would be talking about. And I was just, I don't know, guys. I was a little bit concerned about the nature of those conversations. Again, I think people need to understand when they're live streaming that they're live streaming and all that stuff is being recorded. Equally, on the other side, we're like, right, people are having conversations, and those conversations, they think they're not being recorded. So you've got to understand, you've got to take that into context. Okay, what people say in private conversations is probably not what they really mean. I mean, listen, if you guys have been in the army with me, some of the conversations we have in the army are just, what I would not, I certainly don't agree with, but people have those conversations. So I was a little bit concerned by those conversations, ladies and gentlemen. Right, guys, I am going to jump onto the chat. I think I've covered everything this morning for my morning monologue. Guys, listen, we are on with triple streaming. Make sure you hit those buttons, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Right. Where have I got first? So, right, I just want to give you guys, okay. Yeah, I'll come on to the chat actually first, and then I will. I've not got the chat turned on again. Sorry, guys. Right, the chat's on now. Good morning, everyone. Good morning on the chat. That was my Zoe Dean is saying I'm creasing at Sean's Brummie accent. We used to have this guy in the military. His second name was Wildman, and he wasn't a Wildman. The platoon sergeant used to say. And the platoon sergeant used to come up and he used to say, Wildman, what are you? And he used to have something, I'm a contradiction in terms, Sergeant. Golfman 22 is saying, young Bob is very intelligent. He talks at Speaker's Corner and ties them in knots. Yeah, look, guys, I'll listen, guys. I'll be quite open with you guys. Like, this was the first time I've seen this this lad, young Bob. He's 17. I was shocked. He's 17. He's intelligent. He articulates himself brilliantly. You know, he was right there in the thick of it. He went straight to one of these imams, and you got to understand, this guy's 17. He's 17 years old, and he's calling, you know, he's there challenging intellectually. He's intellectually challenging this imam. And I wanted to see that conversation, guys. I did. I really wanted to see that conversation. I think the police need to let these conversations happen, because without these conversations happening, we're just going to get more... we're just going to have more divisional lines, guys. That is the reality. You know, there was a lot of rage. There was a lot of rage from, and listen, guys, I'll be honest with what I saw. There's a lot of rage from the I've got to say from the Muslim side, guys, because it was predominantly Muslims. There was some weird stuff as well. There was like Pakistani flags being flown. I think, okay, all right, okay, so free Palestine, free Palestine. And Pakistani, please. You know, so like, what? So are we free in Pakistan now? I don't know. Yeah, I was really impressed with that guy, young Bob, guys. I really was. He was very passionate as well. He went right into the lion's den, guys. He did. He went right into the lion's den. Right. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Guys, there's loads of people on the chat. I'm sorry. I've only just... Yeah, I forgot to switch the chat over. Good morning, everybody. Zoe Dean is saying it went smoother than I thought. I do think certain people... Yeah, look, guys. So last night, it was an absolute flop for the pro-Palestinian guys. It was an absolute flop for those people who'd expected hundreds and thousands of protesters to turn up. There were more police on the ground than protesters. Now, that doesn't give you... Like, when that happens, it's kind of a massive flop out for the guys who are there as protesters. Beats and Tapes is saying, after last night, I know civil war will not happen. Civil war will 100% happen, guys, okay? You know, we have got... Remember, it's not going to be... In fact, hang on. Actually, Beats and Tapes, I agree with you. Civil war will not happen. What's coming is going to be worse, because it's not going to be civil war where it's going to be, for example, Muslims versus Christians, Republicans versus Democrats, the left versus the right, the north versus the south. What's coming to the United Kingdom is a state of... What would we class Northern Ireland as? Northern Ireland wasn't a civil war, because you had, and again, it's very difficult to understand what happened in Northern Ireland. So you had the loyalists who want to be part of, who want to stay part of the United Kingdom. You had the Irish Republican Army who wanted Northern Ireland to become part of Southern Ireland. You then had dissident splinter groups that were all fighting each other. And then after a few years, it was just carnage. It was just so complicated to try and understand what was happening. You had us versus them versus them versus them. These guys are allied with those guys, but only while those guys are still operating. And as soon as those guys are operating, these are going to be our enemies. That's what's coming to the United Kingdom. So yes, where I would agree, it's not going to be called a civil war. I can't think of a better name for it right now, but that will happen. Right, guys, I'm just jumping. I'm just jumping up. Destiny's Workman is saying public order for talking. Yeah, guys, look, I think this. I think that conversation with. I think that conversation with the Imam and young Bob. I wanted to see that happen. I really did. I want to see that happen. Right, I'm going to jump down, guys. Just quite listen, ladies and gentlemen. What you guys on TikTok? I do apologize. You guys on TikTok. Sorry, not you guys on TikTok. I do apologize to you guys on TikTok because I can't turn the chat on. I don't know how to do it. You guys on YouTube, I do apologize if I'm missing anybody's comment. I don't mean to do that. Debbie Doobs is saying he was arrested last night, has been released without charge. Oh, okay. So young Bob's been released without charge. Yeah, I think that was always going to happen. You know, he didn't do anything. He was literally just trying to talk to somebody. Donna is saying Poland launches new military training program and aims to train 400,000 troops in 2026. Look, guys, I've told you many times. Poland, Germany, Lithuania, the Baltic states, Lithuania, Estonia. What's the other one? Go on, somebody help me out. They are going to provide the meat to this army. The British military, you know, and again, you know, when I'm doing videos, sometimes I do make analogies of the Russian military to the British military and the absolute size comparison difference. What I've got to say is that if you think of Europe now as a whole, as a full military, the British military will provide the special forces contingent for that military because it is Britain with. I think there's a fire in the allotments. Give me a second, guys. Give me a second. I just want to check this. Sorry, I've got some wood stacked in the bottom of the garden, and I could smell a fire at the allotment. Well, I can't see it actually. I thought there might have been a fire, and I was worried about my wood stack going up. Right. Yeah. So when we're talking about militaries now, and what's coming in Eastern Europe, the British military have that capacity to surge forwards, that force projection. Now, when you have force projection and that surge capability, that's a highly trained, that's an advanced infantry skill. You know, you can't be any geek off the street. You got to be handy with a steel, know what I mean? And you keep. Sorry, guys. It's morning. So those people have to have a high level of motivation. Now, if you add conscripts to that mix, like in the United Kingdom, for example, oh, guys, something else that I forgot about. I will come on to that in a minute. Donna just reminded me. Something, you know, if you add conscripts to that mix, then you dilute that potency, and you do not want your special forces units being diluted. You want them as potent as possible, because for every one person that's unmotivated, you may have to have like a couple of people to motivate them, you know, and I'm using motivate as a very, very broad aspect. Right. One more thing I saw last night, guys, before we really get onto these chats. One more thing I saw last night, and this should, like, I should have started with this. So, you know, I've said, so, you know, we're looking at what's happening in the United Kingdom right now. We're looking at this mass influx of migration from wherever. And we've been saying, we don't know why these people are coming. We don't know why these people are coming. They're either going to be like, you know, but we know that they're coming for a reason. So they're either here as an invasion force. They're either here as conscripts. They're either here as, you know, spenders for universal basic income. I've said previously, and I've shared with you guys certain articles from, I think it was Mark Rowley. So is it Mark Rowley? I think it's either like Met Office Police Chief. I think it is Mark Rowley. Now he did an article like a couple of weeks ago, maybe even a couple of months ago, and he was saying that the police force in the United Kingdom needs a massive shakeup. And he says rather than have these smaller police stations, they need mega stations. So big. I mean, I think he was going Judge Dredd. With that, as soon as I saw that, I said, aha, I bet the police force start to employ private security companies. This will start off as a great, thing. Oh, we've got private security companies now that work on behalf of the police. And if there's, for example, if there's a burglary at a low risk location, like at an industrial park, we can send the police in. Sorry, we can send the private security in. Mr. David on TikTok, send me a message, and if you want to come on the chat, guys, okay? Mr. David just popped up wanting to join the chat. Mr. David, if you want to join the chat, send me a message, and we'll identify a time. I can send you a link, and we can do it on YouTube if you want. But Mr. David or anybody, guys, if you're wanting to join the chat on TikTok, or wanting to do a split screen with me, whatever it is, send me a message beforehand. And let me know what we're talking about. I've tried it before, and I've opened the screen, and it just goes wrong, guys. It just goes wrong. So, anyway, you lot on TikTok, I'm going to be closing you down in a second. Anyway, so So, in this context, what I've said previously about the police employing private security. Now, think about it. It's going to make perfect sense to start with. It will make perfect sense in the context that, the police will say, oh, we only send private security out to low-risk locations. For example, if there's a reported burglary on an industrial estate, rather than send, police cars out there with real police officers, we just send a private security company out there to have a look and assess the situation. That's going to develop over time. The online safety bill, how the online safety bill was initially for protecting kids, and then as soon as it was passed, it was it's got nothing to do with protecting kids at all. Yeah, nothing to do with that. It's all about arresting people. Can you remember that, how that happened? So the next thing that will happen to the private security companies is, okay, well, the private security companies now, we're going to give them powers of detention. But don't worry, it's nothing more than they have already, because in the United Kingdom, everybody can do a citizen's arrest, and a citizen's arrest is something that anyone can do if they see somebody committing a crime. So it's not really anything more than that. But we're just going to, give them a little bit more training on how to do citizens. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, this is not going to be an arrest. Only a police officer is going to be able to arrest you. These private security are going to just be able to detain you. You see how that escalates, guys? You see how that escalates? Now, bringing this back onto last night. Last night, while we was on the live stream, I don't know if you was on the live stream when I called this, there was security, people who I would say, and again, I may be wrong, I would say these people are of Middle Eastern descent, and they were wearing security. They were there as security, and I'm going to say they were in support of the police. They had Palestinian flags on their little vests. So that tells you, a lot about that dynamic. And look, I am biased with this, guys. All right, I am biased. When I used to work in Iraq, we had local security. We had local security on our gate. When I can't remember what year it was. Was it 2012? Somebody put it in the chat. What year did 2012? Maybe 13, maybe even 14. I don't know. I think he was 20. I can't remember. Anyway, when ISIS, I wasn't in country at the time. I was out. But all my, all the rest of my team were in Baghdad. When ISIS started to move on Baghdad, all the locals just threw their security shirts off and ran off. So I am a little bit biased when I see Middle Eastern security. Also, the same thing happened when I was in Baghdad as well. The same thing happened again when the Iraqi army came in. So this is the security. You get what you pay for, guys. Okay. So the security that we had when the Iraqi army came in and encircled our villa, just ran off. So like we got them all in. We're like, right, guys, we're not going to sack you. Like, what the fuck just happened? Like, oh, right, well, we didn't want to have a gunfight with the Iraqi army. So you're like, right, okay, fair enough. Like, look, you can't run off again. You know, we are paying you to be our security. Like, if you run off, we don't have any locals in our villa to talk. You know, if somebody's trying to get in, we don't know what they want. We may be able to talk them down. If we can't talk them down, if you guys are not here to help us talk them down, you know, that's what we're paying you for. So we gave them some training. As soon as ISIS turned up, yeah, we're gone again. Like, oh, God, anyway, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, I'm just conscious. Right, guys, let me get the rest. Right, listen, I've just got a load of people jump up wanting to co-host. Guys, look, if you're jumping up wanting to co-host on TikTok, send me a message, all right? Send me a message. Tell me what you want to co-host about, and and we'll do it. You know, I can't just let you guys jump on. Right, I'm going to jump to the bottom here, guys. I'm going to get the comments, and then I will hang on. Hang on a minute. Right, okay. So A is saying you guys are lacking numbers. Right, A. Right, guys, this conversation. Right, okay, we're gonna have this conversation on YouTube right now. So I've just seen the comments here, and there's somebody called A. A, can you tell me where you're from first before we start with this? Because I don't know where you're from. What do we mean lacking numbers in what? What are we lacking numbers in? And who's we and who are you and who are they? You know, I think we need to get those things pretty clear. And you fantastic lot on TikTok. I'm going to close you guys down now. I will be jumping over to YouTube. I will still be streaming on YouTube. I'll still be streaming on X. So I'm jumping over there, guys. I'm the Real Raven 1 on YouTube. I'm the Real Raven 1 on X. And if you guys are not going to jump over, then I'll see you later. Right, those guys have gone. Let you get that down. Right, so guys, I'm just trying to catch up with this chat here. All right, okay. Right, okay. A is saying he's from Australia. Right, okay. Are we okay, right, okay. Right, okay. So we're doing okay, so I think what we're doing here is a comparison. Yeah, okay. Okay, so we're doing a comparison. Okay, so look, guys, I'll tell you, I don't know if you're new to my channel or not. I've said for quite a while that without the United States, we don't have a win scenario fighting the Russians as we are now. And I've been quite clear about that. So I will agree. You know, I'm not going to say no chance if Uncle Sam doesn't save you. What I will say is, if we don't reform our militaries now, then I would agree with you. But, we can reform our militaries. We can make some tough decisions. I don't know if the governments have the ability to make those tough decisions. And then we're talking about nuclear weapons. So A is saying, 5,580 nukes versus 225. Right. Okay. So the analogy I always give with these nuclear weapons, well, first of all, I don't think a nuclear weapon is ever going to be used, guys. I don't. That's what I think. If we see nuclear testing, actual testing the nuclear bombs, not the delivery, not the delivery vehicle, I may change that analysis. But as I'm sitting right now, guys, okay, I'm saying I don't see the likelihood of a nuclear bomb ever being used again in a conflict. However, I will address this. So 5,580 nuclear weapons versus 225. Well, I think you're talking about Russia versus Britain there with nuclear weapons. I could argue on those numbers, but yeah, I totally understand. You've got to take into consideration France as well. France are a massive nuclear superpower. They have all the nuclear stuff to build more nuclear weapons. So what I would say is A, and this is a direct question to you, mate. If you own, for example, a scrapyard and that scrapyard has 5,580 vehicles in it. Missing engines, missing tires, missing windscreens, missing gearboxes. They've all been pilfered at different parts of their career. And if you have a showroom with 225 cars ready, which one of those is going to be able to travel for which one out of those two scenarios, which one's going to be able to get you further? So when people make that analogy about, Russia has more nuclear weapons, yeah, I get that. But, if you have a scrapyard with a million trucks in it, but none of them have got wheels and they've all got engines missing. Yeah, you have got, I get that. You've got 1 million or 5,580 cars, but the reality is I'm not convinced any of them work. 4,204. I don't know where you're getting these numbers from. But I will concede that the Russian Air Force is bigger than the British Air Force. But remember, it's not going to be Britain versus Russia. It's going to be Europe versus Russia, which is a totally different dynamic. Right, let me jump down. Russia is not amazing, but don't believe all the proper G. Right, okay, propaganda. Right, I don't know. Okay, right, okay, right. I think I agree with you. I think I do agree with you. I really do think I agree with you. Oh, hang on a minute. Emma is saying a trove of weapons for possible Islamist terror attack found in major European capital. Let me Google this real quick. Wow. Okay. Right. So So this is from. GB News. Let me see what the ads are like. If the ad, yeah, it's full of ads. I would share this with you guys, but I'm just blasted with ads. Trove of weapons for possible Islamist terror attack found in major European capital. So they found it in Austria. Well, Austria is okay, whatever, I'm just reading this. A trove of deadly Hamas-linked weapons suspected to have been part of an Islamist terror plot have been discovered in Austria. Officials have warned they may have been part of a plan to carry out attacks on Jewish targets across Europe. On Thursday, the Austrian authorities discovered 500 handguns and 10 ammunition magazines. That doesn't make any sense. So like 500 handguns and only 10 magazines? Who's doing this maths? Anyway, whatever. 10 ammunition magazines in a suitcase inside a Vienna storage unit. Okay, so it's being transported. The country's Home Office equivalent said its investigation has led it to believe Israeli or Jewish institutions in Europe were likely to be the targets of these attacks. 5 handguns. All right. Okay. Sorry. Stop. 5 handguns. So 5 pistols and 10 magazines. So you've got like a maximum, depending on what it is, I guess you've got like 30 rounds each or something for each pistol. Okay. Sorry, guys. I do apologize. It was, let me confirm that. Okay. It was 5 pistols and 10 magazines. Not the biggest haul I've heard of, guys. It's what are they saying there? Trove of weapons. I mean, really? Okay, it's 9 mil, so whatever, we'll go with it. So there was a 39-year-old British man was arrested in London on Monday with officials alleging that the man had close ties to recover the weapons. The man appeared at Westminster Magistrates Court later that day before being remanded into custody and is due to appear in court via video link next week. According to Austria's intelligence agencies, the suspect and weapons were part of a cross-border investigation into global terrorist organizations with ties with Hamas. I think what this highlights, ladies and gentlemen, is a British man was arrested. A British man was arrested. Now, what I think this highlights, this story, is just the sheer amount of munitions that can move through Europe. And I've been calling this for a long time, guys. The amount of munitions that can move into the United Kingdom, via the small boats, via the small boat crossings. Diamond Geezer is saying, I told the police that this was going to happen in 2011, but they wouldn't listen. The police don't listen, guys. I had a run-in with the police the other day. I was just shocked. I was shocked. Where we live on like a hill. And there's anyway, I was talking to my dad on the phone, looking out the window, and all the cars started to back up. So I said, "Oh, Dad, I think there's been an accident on, the so-and-so road, because it's like a country road and it's quite bending. If you're going faster than you should, it is dangerous." So I said, "Yeah, I think there's been an accident." Anyway, the next thing I saw a person dressed in black leg it across the field. And then he started to head down towards the woods. So I said, "Oh, God, Dad," I said, I'm just seeing this. He's like, "Oh, God." I said, "Where's he going?" I said, "Well, I don't know." Anyway, 5 minutes later, he came through the other side of the woods and started to come up the hill towards my house. So I'm like, all right, okay. Anyway, so he tried to get into my garden. I said, "Whoa, what are you doing, mate?" I said, "You ain't coming through my garden." He said, and he gave me some cock and bull story, and then he ran the other way. So I thought, right, okay. Anyway, I saw the blue lights flashing. At the place. So I drove down. I timed it all and everything. I said, all right, I didn't take a picture. It was too far. I wouldn't have made anything out. So I got a description of him. I got an A2H description. I thought, right, okay, I'll just go and give this information to the police, because I don't want, it could have been a hit and run, or it could have been anything really. So I went round to speak to the police and tell them what I'd seen. Do you know what they said to me, the police? I said, "Mate, I live at the hill at the top of the house. I was literally, I saw everything." He said, "Oh, phone 101 or make a report online." And I was like, "Mate, I'm here now." I'm like, "Right here now? I'll give you the information right here now." He says, "No, do it online." I said to him, "All right, text me." He said, "What?" I said, "Call me." And I just drove off. I thought, you're trying to help the police, because look, guys, I'm pro-police, I'm pro-government, I'm pro-strong law and order, But when you're literally being pushed away by the police, when you've got information on an incident, it turned out the incident wasn't. It was just a tippled van and nobody was hurt. So I don't know why the kid was running off. Anyway, let me jump down, ladies and gentlemen. Let me jump. Right. Oh, hang on a minute. Donna is saying, Rachel Reeves demand we all do our bit, but she's about to unleash a 2-tier budget. What are we expecting, guys? What are we expecting from this budget? Are you feeling? Are we all feeling? Oh, Donna, have you got your Christmas tree up? Donna, has Donna got her Christmas tree up? I don't know if you guys can see. Can I make that big? I don't know how. Right? Can I make that? Can I star that? How do I? No. I can't. Donna is saying, I think Donna's got her Christmas tree up as well, which I think is impressive. Rachel Reeves is demanding we all do our bit. People wouldn't mind doing their bit. If we was in a war. If we was in a war and all the young men had gone away to fight those Germans or whatever, you wouldn't mind doing your bit. And I'd be the first, guys. I'd be the first to be trying to do my bit. But the war looks like it's going to come to the war looks like it's going to be here, and it's going to be internal. Belfast and beyond. I'll jump to your message in a minute, mate. Belfast and beyond. So people wouldn't mind doing their bit if the government were doing their bit as well. So if the government were stopping the boats and getting people out of this country that shouldn't be here, then I don't think people would mind doing their bit. Right, let me jump up and find... Right, Belfast and beyond. I'm looking for your comment, mate. It may have been removed. This one. The AI girl in Parliament has told the government she's pregnant with 86 AI babies. I don't, Belfast and beyond, I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means, mate. The AI girl in Parliament, I don't know what that means, buddy. I have no idea what the AI girl in Parliament is. No idea, mate. Right, I'm trying to, guys. Does anybody know what this AI? Does anybody know what this AI thing means? Laureate Hill is saying. VAT threshold to be lowered to 30k, which would kill my barbers. Look. So everybody needs to understand right now that the direction of travel in the United Kingdom is to destroy any small business and to put more people dependent on the state. So at any time that the government get the opportunity to do something detrimental to people who can earn their own money, because barbers earn a lot of cash. They don't want people they don't want people operating with cash. And again, what I will say about barbers is we like the local town. They've got like, in very close proximity, they've got like 5 barber shops, and you never see people in there. It's like barber shop, vape shop, chicken shop, barber shop, vape shop, chicken shop, barber shop, chicken shop, and that's it. That's literally like the high street in the local town. So it's very I would say some barbers maybe getting their money, and this is me just speculating, guys. I would say some barbers may not be cutting as much hair as they're making out to be. Right, everybody's talking about Donna's Christmas tree. And listen, I'm sure Donna has got a fantastic Christmas tree as well. Donna's got a fantastic Christmas tree. Beats and Tapes is saying they're doing their hair. They're cutting ghosts' hair. Right, ladies and gentlemen, look, guys, I'm going to go through what I was speaking about earlier, in case you're just jumping on the live stream for now, guys, okay? Last night, I saw a lot of rage, and I learned quite a few things from watching last night's events unfold in Birmingham. First of all, the numbers just did not turn up. The pro-Palestinian, the numbers did not turn up. They didn't have, they didn't have the numbers that they had expected. The police were out in absolute force. I would say that there were more police. I would say there were more police than protesters. I would say there were more police. There were more numbers of police than there were protesters. There were some conversations that I think needed to be had, and I want to see these conversations, guys. I want to see these intellectual conversations. So there was this guy called Young Bob, and he was having a conversation. I think he was an imam. I may be wrong, guys. I may be wrong. I think he was an imam. He was certainly one of the elders, and the conversation was just starting, and the police came in and broke that conversation up. It wasn't an aggressive conversation. Both people were being very intellectual, very articulate, and I wanted to see that conversation. I'm pretty sure there's going to be some conspiracies later saying that people don't want to see these conversations. But anyway, Another thing I saw that was really concerning was the amount of private security that looked like they were from Middle Eastern descent turned up, and they were operating. I'm going to assume they were operating under the police's guidance, because that's the only way they can operate. And that is just a sign of things to come, guys. That is just a sign of things to come. I don't know if you guys have been following my channel for a while, but a couple of months back, I was outside a supermarket. In fact, it was in the summer, so it was a few months back. And there was two girls. They were in their mid-20s. They had a shopping trolley full of booze. So the girls had a shopping trolley full of booze. The security guard from the store came out and he started asking them for the receipts. And I was watching, I was thinking, hang on a minute. He's got no authority to come out and ask for the receipt. Literally, and you'll see where I'm going with this in a minute, guys, okay? Literally, when you are on... Well, when the woman, I don't know whether they paid self-service or whether they went through a till. But if you go through a till, the woman, she says to you, do you want your receipt? And 9 times out of 10, I will say no. Unless it's something like electronic or like one of the gifts for one of the kids or something, I'll just say, no, I don't want it. I'm not going to come and bring these, I don't know, cabbages back or whatever. That's absurd. And if you're on the self-checkout, you literally click no, and you don't get a receipt. So this guy, this security guard, and I'm going to say it was a Middle Eastern descent because he spoke broken English, had come out of the store and he was demanding a receipt from these girls, and the girls are saying like, we haven't got a receipt, and the girls told him where to go, basically. I thought, well, you know what, good, well done, you girls. Tell them where to go. But can you imagine where this evolves to? Legally, what is the difference between that security guard coming out and demanding to see that receipt just outside the store, or following those girls to their car? What if it's a single mum? What's the difference legally in him coming outside the store and stopping them there at the side of the road, following them to the car? Or what's the difference in him following them home, seeing where they live, and saying, hey, I'm the security guard? Now, you double that up, and you say that some security companies now have the power of detention. You see where we're going with this, guys? It's a dark place we're going with that private security. And also, the final thing that I saw, guys, and I'm not going to say disturbing, it was just concerning. I was watching one of these auditors, and they were walking. One of these auditors were walking back, and I was listening to the conversations that they were having, and they were difficult conversations to listen to, guys. Okay, they were real difficult to conversate. They were real difficult conversations to. They were real difficult conversations to listen to. So, kind of made me question a lot of things. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, they're the crux, ladies and gentlemen. Right, guys, listen, if you're on right now, I know I don't do this enough. Can you guys make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell notification? Really helps me out when you guys do that. Donna is saying the police did come out last night, probably because they were also fearing the worst. Guaranteed, then gave each other a pat on the back. Yeah, the numbers weren't there, guys. The numbers were just not there. The numbers were not there from the processing side. From what I was looking at, and obviously while I was on the live stream, I think I had who did I have? I think I had BB audits, AY audits, and like somebody else. And the numbers were just not there, guys. Okay, when I stopped that later on at night, I was watching like other videos that had been uploaded. I was watching videos that people from the Muslim protest, because it was a Muslim protest. I was watching videos that those guys were putting up, and the numbers just weren't there, guys. They did not have the hundreds of thousands. Like, I would struggle to say that, like, toppers, guys, I would say there was like 500 there. At the very most, I would say there were 500 protesters there. Lisa Jane is saying a new book has been released regarding the global system of power and violence behind the pornography industry. Is everybody talking about what holidays are going on? Oh, so Lisa Jane. All right. Okay. Right, guys. Look, here we go. Right, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. This must be breaking news. Lisa Jane is saying 11 people arrested prior to the Villa match last night as 200 protesters gathered. What did I just say, guys? What did I just say? I know I said 500, but that was toppers. It's very, what I did say is there were more police. There were more police on the ground than protesters. So you can imagine now there's like 3 police officers for every protester. More. There's like 3.3? There's 3.3 police officers now for every protester, because as we know, there were 700 extra police officers brought in to police this match. So when you've got 200 protesters and 700 police officers, riot vans, horses, yeah, that thing's, that thing's going nowhere. Donna is saying, I watched AY, BB audits, and also Tusi. Every single time they wanted to debate, they got accused of gaslighting. It was crazy because instead of debating and having an opinion, we just get, guys, this is one of the for me, one of the main takeaways I want to do from this is, the police were stopping people from having these conversations, and these conversations need to be had, I want somebody to go to these imams, and I want to hear this. I don't want and I want this to be a real conversation, guys. I want this to be live streamed, so I know people are not doing a BBC edit. I want these things to be live streamed, and I want somebody to go up to these imams and say, "Look, mate, do you accept that there is a ridiculous amount of people from your community that are part of these grooming gangs? To explain that to me. Explain that to me." And I want somebody to go to these, these imams and say, look, mate, if your children, if there were gangs of white Christians roaming the streets, taking Muslim girls, what would you do? What would you do? That's what I want to hear, guys. Those are the conversations I want to hear. Now, if those conversations, and I don't want these conversations I don't want to watch these conversations on BBC. I don't want to watch these conversations on any news channel, because you get, I want real conversations with real people. I want to get that. When I was in the military, not when I was in the military, after I'd been into the military and I was working in other countries around the world. One of the reasons my company was so successful, I don't want to give too much away. One of the things we used to do is we would give, we was like auditors. We was one of the like battlefield auditors, I guess. I should start a channel, Battlefield Audits. Should I start a channel, guys, Battlefield Audits? I'll go to all these war zones and report in the war zones. Ravens Battlefield Audits, RBA, Ravens Battlefield Audits. So one of the things I used to do is I was like, you would get so you're at government level, you get these people talking, and you get the colonels and the generals talking to the politicians. That conversation is so far detached from the reality of what's happening on the ground. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So what I used to do is, and the reason I think I was so successful is I would say, no. I don't want to talk to the colonels. I don't want to ask the colonels what's happening on the battlefield. I don't want to ask the colonels what weapon systems they want. I don't want to ask the colonels how the war's going. I want to go and speak to the private soldiers who are on the front line. And I used to turn up there, just want me, an interpreter, clapped out car, and I would gain their trust. I would gain people's trust. And once you gain people's trust, they open up to you more, and I would be able to give a more detailed analysis. So bringing that framework into the United Kingdom, I don't want to see, this a highly polished imam talking to a highly polished Christian commentator. I don't want to see that. I want to see real people on the ground having real intellectual conversations with no holds barred, and say, look, you ask me difficult questions. You ask me, you're in my country now. You ask me difficult questions, but in return, I'm going to ask you some difficult questions. Let's go for a dinner afterwards. Let's go for a steak or a curry, whatever. I don't mind, and let's be sophisticated. Let's be articulate. Let's be intelligent, and let's just accept we've got differences, and we'll talk about that. Otherwise, what we're heading towards in the United Kingdom is civil conflict, civil unrest, whatever is coming. Every time when communication breaks down, When communication breaks down, the violence is almost inevitable. It's like, what happens on the macro happens on the micro. So in international affairs, when you remove, what's the word I'm looking for? They are diplomats, ambassadors. Ambassadors. Sorry, guys. When you move an ambassador from a country, you have that rapport, that communication link where you're saying to your ambo, you're saying, right, mate, what the fuck is happening out there? And he's like, oh, right, okay. Right, Tariq, you need to get in, mate. No, you need to get in, mate. It's all good. Once that's gone, people start to assume the worst. People start building up militaries. People start invading. Hang on. Endeavour to preserve, say, London mayor knighted by the king while protecting criminals and hiding the truth is backward world tactics. It is, but again, it fits into that dynamic that I've just spoke about. It fits into that dynamic that I've just spoke about. Where we have these high-end intellects, politicians, monarchs who are so far detached from what's happening at the base level. It's unbelievable. Like, do you think King Charles has ever had to go and, go to a shop in Bradford, walk the streets of Bradford at midnight? Do you think he's ever had to walk through Tower Hamlets on his own? Do you think that's ever happened? Right, I can smell something burning out. I think there's something. Right, Sean, read Emma Green's last post. French officials using £125,000 in UK taxpayers' cash to build a migrant fence. Well, that's not going to work, is it? Literally, that's not going to work. It's just not, well, look, guys, maybe it's going to work. I don't think it'll work. I don't know how it can work. I think they'll just go around it. Lisa's saying, I think you should get out. The Real Raven one would be brilliant talking to the crowds. Guys, when I do, I get on with everyone. I'll be honest with you, I will get on with everyone. Literally, I get on with everyone. I think it's one of my. I've had some jobs that I've been nowhere near qualified to do some of the roles I've done, and I've looked at the people who've tried to take my job, and people just said, no, we want to stay with Sean. And I thought, wow, Jesus, and I think one of the reasons I've stayed on with my job for done the things I've done is because I get along with everyone, and I always try and find that middle ground, and I'm not rude to people. I am rude to people sometimes when they deserve it. Golfman is saying you could do a podcast type thing with young Bob or a zoo. You see, I'm not interested in listening to young. Look, guys, let me just be fair, okay? I think young Bob is fantastic. I think he is. I'm not interested in talking to him. I want to know. I want to talk to the other side, guys. I want to know what makes them tick. I wanted to hear, I want to know from the Muslim community how they would feel. Right, okay, imams, Assalamu alaikum, Habibi, and Mohabi, Jidana Asif. I'll go in, I speak a little bit of Arabic. I want to go in there and talk to these imams and say, right, look, what's going on? Tell me what's going on. Don't bullshit me, all right? And form that rapport. And I think that really needs to happen. Right, what's 10 mega? Hang on a minute. Right, what's 10 megabytes saying? 10 megabytes is saying. Right, I don't know what 10 megabytes is saying there. Right, let me jump down. Sean the burnt toast. What's burnt toast? What's the burnt toast? Burnt toast. Sean burned the toast. No, okay, no, So I think there's a fire in the allotments, and I keep smelling it, and I keep having a whiff, and I'm like, right, is that fire? Because I looked down there, and I couldn't see any smoke. Yeah, I think what Lisa Jane is saying here is I've previously said, and I stand by it, I don't think there's going to be a I don't think there's going to be a King William. I think this is going to be, I think King Charles is the last king of England. I don't think there's going to be a king after Charles, guys. I really don't. Yeah, exactly what Debbie Doobs is saying. I don't think the king is going to be around a long time. Maybe that's why he's dealt. Yeah, I don't think he is either, guys. I think this is going to be the last king of England, unless he abdicates in the next couple of before the next election. If the king does not abdicate before the next election, then he's going to be the last king. All right, guys, I'm going to jump to the bottom of the chat. Debbie's talking to Lisa. Lisa's talking to right, listen, guys, we are at 1 hour now, okay? So I'm going to start to close this down. Oh, hang on a minute. I'm not closing anything down. Christine Chambers is saying William is the Antichrist. Right, Christine Chambers, can you give me more context to that? You know, I thought it could be Donald Trump. I mean, look, Donald Trump fits a lot of these bills. He does. Donald Trump fits a lot of these bills. You know, he's not the right age, but look, listen, you know, with all religions, you know, look, guys, let me just throw this out there. All right. I should probably do this in the beginning of the video. I think all wars are ridiculous. I've been to enough of them. I've been to most of, but you know, I've been to all. The only war I've not been to in the last 26 years is Israel-Gaza. It's the only war I've not been to. I've either been with the military, I've either been with as a contractor, as a security contractor, as a an analyst, as an advisor. You know, so I have been to these war zones. And what I will say is they're all ridiculous. 10 years after that war finishes, everything is back to normal. And people are like, oh, well, yeah, we had a war here. And a lot of people died. I think that as soon as humans can stop fighting each other and start going into space, we will, you know, we will be a lot better for ourselves. We will. But Christine, tell me why, Christine, that tell me why William is the Antichrist. And Donna is saying, can the government overthrow the king? I don't know. I mean, it wouldn't be, well, look, whoever's got the most guns usually wins. Zoe Dean is saying, I don't think the king is going to last to the next general election. I think he's going to die in the next 12 months. So Christine Chambers is saying he's a Rothschild, part of the World Economic Forum and Serco. Okay, but why does that make him the Antichrist? Like, there's a lot of people... You know, there's a lot of people that could be, you know, there's a lot of people that I would say are, you know, from the Rothschild dynasty. And there are a lot of people who work for the World Economic Forum, and there's a lot of people who work for Serco. So, like, how are we putting those things together, guys? How are we putting those things together? Right, listen, ladies and gentlemen, some of you guys have got a Christmas trees up, which I think is fantastic. I am going to close this down now, guys. I'll be back on later today. I'll be back on at, at 8? I'll be back on at 8. If you've not done so already, guys, please like, comment, subscribe, share, bell notification, all those things. I think I'm going to reach out to. I think I will start reaching out to people and try and get them on and do like a split screen live stream, because I do think that's what needs to happen. I may even go out there and speak to some people. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to close this down now. Get your Christmas trees up, guys. Everybody, get your Christmas trees up. Let's all have a Christmas tree up day. Let's all do Christmas tree. Let's all do Christmas tree Friday and bring the cheer of Christmas into our homes, because we can't wait for the fat man to come down our chimneys and empty his sack. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for, oh, hang on. Right, guys, I'm closing this down now. Antichrist is translated incorrectly. It should be instead of Satan. It will be delivered, not born. So that would bring me on to artificial intelligence. So that would bring me on to artificial intelligence then, because artificial intelligence will be delivered, not born. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to close this down now. Thank you so much for hanging out with me this morning, guys. I will be back on later. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. I'll see you guys later.